From the very moment that ZANU-PF started whispering about the changes to the constitution, the MDC sounded the alarm bells. We warned that this was not a development plan, it was not a national vision, but a political maneuver. Today, we stand vindicated. Cabinet has approved the constitutional bill, draft constitutional bill number 3, which is supposed to be presented to Parliament. And as we all knew, this bill has a lot of objectionable parts in it. The first one, of course, is that it changes the manner in which the President of the Republic is going to be elected. Now, Zimbabweans did not complain about the manner in which the president is elected. Zimbabweans are not crying about the system of election of president. And as you know, our current system is a system of direct mandate, where the president is elected by the people of Zimbabwe. Now, that has now been changed to say that the president must be elected by parliament. So where the president was supposed to be elected by, let's say, 15 million people, the president is now being elected by 350 people. So the 350 people, the members of parliament, have now substituted the people of Zimbabwe. When the people of Zimbabwe voted for the constitution, when the people of Zimbabwe, before voting, when the people of Zimbabwe directed what had to be put in the constitution, they were very, very clear that they wanted to elect their president. That power to elect their president has just vanished. It has just been removed. Zimbabweans demand that they should elect their president. The other thing is that the members of parliament are going to be elected directly by the people, while the president is indirectly elected by the members of parliament. What that means is that we have a superior election system, which is direct election, taking place at local government and parliamentary level, and an inferior type of election taking place at the presidential level. So we have a situation where a product of an inferior election is going to preside over products of a superior election. So, for example, in Nyanga North, for example, the MP wins 15,000 votes, direct election. And then the president is voted for by 300 people in parliament. One has been elected by 15,000 people. The other one has been elected by 300 people. And the one elected by 300 people is superior to the one elected by 15,000 people. It does not make sense. And this is not what Zimbabweans asked for. There is an important principle that is in our constitution, and that is the principle of the sovereignty of the people. So the sovereignty of the people means that the people have the right to determine their destiny. The sovereignty of the people has been compromised. Millions of Zimbabweans have been disenfranchised. They have been substituted by members of parliament. Now, the constitution, the armed struggle of Zimbabwe was, among other things, on the demand for one man, one vote, universal suffrage. What the people who fought for this country envisaged was where Zimbabweans would vote for their leaders. That ideal of the armed struggle has just been compromised at the stroke of the pen, and we cannot accept that. Thousands of people lost their lives in Chimoyo, in Dukwe camp, in the Freedom camp in Zambia, in Nyadzonya, in order that we have the right to vote. That right to vote has been taken away from the majority of the people of Zimbabwe. We demand that is the right for the Zimbabweans to elect their president be restored to them. The approval of this constitution is a great source of worry to us. The constitution bill is going to be debated by parliament, which is made up of men and women who directly stand to benefit from this bill. They are going to determine whether they accept the bill or not on behalf of the masses. After which, the bill is going to the president, who is a person who is going to directly benefit from this bill. So there is a conflict of interest of cataclysmic levels. There is clear conflict of interest. People who directly stand to benefit are sitting in judgment of any issue that benefits them. Now, what we had done in the Constitution was to cure against that eventuality by making a provision for a referendum. So in terms of the current Constitution, it goes to Parliament, then goes to referendum, and eventually it lands on the desk of the President to be ascended to. That referendum has been removed. In fact, when we listen to the speeches by the Minister of Justice, there is not going to be a referendum. They want to just go to the Parliament and without the approval of the people. This is wrong. Even as they tried in the bill to make Section 328, subsection 7, to be inoperative. That is the section which says that even if there is an extension of term, the incumbent shall not benefit. The bill seeks to make the incumbent benefit from the extension. Even though they've done that, there is still a requirement for referendum. Because for you to change presidential term limits, there ought to be a referendum. Presidential term limits provisions are amended in the same manner as you amend the Bill of Rights. We notice in this bill that there is no amendment of Section 328 of the Constitution. And Section 328 of the Constitution, ladies and gentlemen, starts by defining what a term limit clause is. And it says a term limit clause is a clause that lengthens the period of time that a person holds office. Now, if you change the presidential term from 5 years to 7 years, you have lengthened the period in which the president must hold office. It is a term limit provision. And if it is a term limit provision, it is amended in a particular way, and that way is defined in the section. And those clauses have not been amended even by this bill. So we demand that this bill be sent to referendum so that the people of Zimbabwe decide whether to side with what ZANU-PF is demanding or not. Ladies and gentlemen, in this constitution, there were certain constitutional safeguards that were put. For example, the constitution says it is the duty of the president to defend and protect the constitution. So the president is made the first line of defense of the constitution. And it goes on to say, the parliament shall also defend the constitution. So the parliament becomes the second line of defense. It says all the people of Zimbabwe, it also says the armed forces must respect the constitution, must defend the constitution. So that's another line of defense. And the last and the most important line of defense is the people of Zimbabwe. In certain cases, the people of Zimbabwe will defend the constitution via a referendum. That power to defend the constitution has been taken from the people of Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, The other worrying thing about this constitution is its reference to the defense forces. And in terms of the current constitution, the defense forces must oblige with the constitution, must defend, in other words, this constitution. That has been removed. Now, if you remove that clause, you are creating danger. And the danger is that the constitution is a moral compass. And as it is a moral compass, if you remove the compass, you make the country directionless. You make the armed forces directionless. And when you remove the clause to defend the constitution, you mean that the defense forces must not be bound by the protective provision of the constitution. So you make them limitless. I have heard the argument that this is a coup proofing clause. In other words, it is meant to prevent coups. That is not sensible at all. In all the circumstances where you have coups here in Africa and elsewhere in the world, the first casualty is the constitution. Coup plotters don't follow the constitution anyway, and therefore there is no need of trying to bind them by the constitution because they don't follow the constitution. They actually suspend the constitution in certain instances. And ladies and gentlemen, most people in the establishment pride themselves that the military intervention, as they call it, of November 2017 was a bloodless one. It was a peaceful one, and it was they even say it was a good one. But I want us to cast our mind back to the behavior of the military at that stage. The general then, the commander of the army then, of the defense forces then, was General Chwenga. He waved the constitution to the people of Zimbabwe, and they followed the constitution in certain of its aspects. And that probably accounts for why we had something relatively peaceful. Removing the constitution is a recipe of disaster, and we do not agree with that. They have removed the gender commission. The women of this country are historically marginalized. They fought so hard during the constitution making process to have provisions that deal with the gender mainstreaming. Gender mainstreaming has just been removed by the removal of a commission that would specialize in gender issues. There is an American saying, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. What was wrong with the gender commission? What was wrong with the system of electing the president directly? What was wrong in saying that the defense forces must abide by the constitution, must defend the constitution? So if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So the MDC is totally against this bill as it stands. This bill has a lot of things that are not in it. Because when you amend the constitution, you are addressing key national issues or issues of national importance. For example, Zimbabweans are talking about what happens to the victims of political violence. Should they not have reparations? Should they not be compensated? Zimbabweans are demanding that. Zimbabweans are demanding the right to equality when it comes to allocation of national resources, the mineral resources, and other commercial resources. Zimbabweans are demanding that. And that's not in these amendments. What are in these amendments are attempts to entrench the rule of ZANU-PF. It is unfair and unjust. So this constitution, this bill, must go to the people of Zimbabwe. And it is the people of Zimbabwe who should determine whether they accept it or not. I want to state it in other words because I've heard it before. ZANU-PF saying that they are allowed to make any proposals that they so wish to make. They are probably right in that regard. But the buck doesn't end with them. Yes, they have the right to make these kind of proposals. But the people who will decide on whether that right is taken up or not are the people of Zimbabwe. Therefore, ZANU-PF and the government must put its proposals before the people of Zimbabwe in a referendum. That way, we abide with the Constitution of Zimbabwe. We therefore, as the MDC, exhort, number one, the President of the Republic to exercise his duties in terms of Section 90 of the Constitution. And Section 90 of the Constitution says it is the duty of the President to defend and uphold and protect the Constitution. This Constitution is under siege. From his own party, he must defend it. And by, of course, refusing this amendment. There is need, because this is not affecting ZANU-PF or the parties in parliament only. It is going to affect the entirety of the nation. There must be meaningful, genuine dialogue over this issue. The people of Zimbabwe, through their representatives, must be involved in looking at this issue. Number three, we call for unity of purpose of all progressive Zimbabweans across the political divide to defend and protect the Constitution. This calls for unity within the opposition, unity with those elements who may be in ZANU-PF but are not in agreement with the desecration of the Constitution. We demand that this constitutional amendment be put to the referendum and the people of Zimbabwe to decide. So the MDC, as it stood, is standing where it stood before. And that is to say, this constitution needs to be preserved, this constitution needs to be protected, and this constitution must not be amended as a result of direct self-interest. And this constitution, of course, requires, the amendment requires the assent of the people of Zimbabwe before it goes to the president for assent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. I am now inviting if there is anybody with a question or with questions. I'll start normally from my left. My lady, do you have any question? And
I insist that Yvonne asks a question.
yes.
It is an order.
Well, probably would want to know like what constitutional safeguards when citizens are not directly elected president. Why should the people defend what you're saying? Why should they not go the post?
Thank you very much. Yvonne, currently the people of Zimbabwe have the right to elect the president, to vote in the president, in the presidential election. So they have right now a legitimate expectation that come election time, I will, as an individual, cast my vote on a candidate that I want. That has now been removed. And they are now saying that power to elect the president is now going to be exercised on behalf of the people by parliament. So it is the 350 parliamentarians who are going to sit and elect a president. Now, it is possible, and it did happen at one time in this country, where some people elected a president from this party and an MP from a different party. That freedom of choice has now been removed. And that is why we are saying the people of Zimbabwe must defend the right that they have. That is the right to elect a president. And if they have a right to elect the president, it means they have power over over a president. A person who is holding the office of president is likely to behave better if he or she knows that after 5 years he will face the electorate and be accountable to them. Now that is removed. He doesn't have to worry about what the electorate thinks. He only has to worry about what the 350 people in parliament are going to think. So accountability to the people is then lost. And that is what we are saying Zimbabweans must defend.
Yes, anything? Yes.
My name is Lovejoy from 260 Chat. Mr. Mwonzora, suppose the ZANU-PF then goes ahead, doesn't listen to your concerns, doesn't listen to anyone. They go ahead and implement what they're trying to do. What now from your end? And then probably another question would be, don't you think maybe you should be fighting this from a collective effort in the opposition, or you want to do it as an MDC team? Is there no strength in numbers? Then my last question would be, President Mnangagwa is on record several times saying that he doesn't want to extend his term, he will not accept that. Do you think he has misled millions of Zimbabweans by repeatedly saying what he said and then acting the other way?
Well, first of all, suppose they do it anyway. You know, what are we going to do? We will cross the bridge when we get to it. We have spoken our mind about what we see as wrong in this whole thing. And it is possible, it has happened before, it happened during delimitation. We as the MDC fought against delimitation. And the opposition that is now in parliament sided with ZANU-PF, and the delimitation still went ahead anyway. But there must be in history certain men and women who will say no. And at this point in time, fate has pointed on us and all progressive forces to say no to what is wrong. And if they want to go ahead anyway, do the constitutional amendments in an unconstitutional way anyway, we will cross the bridge when we come to it. As Lenin says in his book, Guerrilla Warfare, there is no prescribed method of struggle. Every method will depend on the circumstances as they exist. We want to see what ZANU-PF is going to do in parliament. We want to see what the parliamentarians are going to do, are going to say, and we will react accordingly. Of course, there is strength in numbers. That is why the MDC is on record of saying we want the unity of purpose of all progressive forces. So in a previous press conference, we talked about the need to unite as an opposition. And I remember talking about other political leaders, Job Scala, Spiti. I dared talk about Chamisa. And of course, the reaction of Chamisa is on public record. And we still maintain as the MDC that there is need, there is wisdom in uniting for the common cause, for the common good. And we will talk to those people who want to unite. I have read in the paper sentiments by other political leaders, Scholars Party. They've commented. I've seen the comment by Professor Maduku and other political leaders and leaders within the civil society. It is important to come together on this issue. The MDC is speaking now because the MDC must give its position so that there is no ambiguity. The MDC was key in drafting this constitution. It was key in negotiating the global political agreement that led to the establishment of the constitution, and it is a key stockholder. President Mnangagwa has refused, has said that he does not want a third term or an extension of term. He said that in an interview with CNN, Christian Amanpour. He said it in I think it was in Beijing, China. He said it in China when addressing Zimbabwean nationals there. And he said it in Mutare. He has repeated it a few times. And I do know, because at one point in time, I put the question directly to him. When I bumped into him, I put the question directly to him, and his answer was the same. That is why we are saying that if he is of that mind, that he has publicly professed to the world that he does not want the third term, we are calling upon him as the president of the republic to exercise his duties in terms of Section 90. And Section 90 says it is the duty of the president to defend and preserve the Constitution. The Constitution is under siege, so he should do that. And we are expecting that he should do that. And it is also the duty of the government to listen to the dissenting voices. We know that there is a lot of intolerance that has come into the establishment. People who think differently on this issue may be persecuted, and so on. We want Zimbabweans to debate this issue in full freedom, and let the dominant idea prevail, and let the people decide. It's not for ZANU-PF to decide. It is for the entire Zimbabwean population to decide.
Yes. Yes, my brother.
My name is I went to engage them in any effort made so far.
Maybe another question?
Yes.
I'll answer
Do you have another question? Anyone? Yes.
Yeah. Maybe are you planning on launching a court application, a court challenge on this one, on this issue?
Name and oh, it's the same question. Okay. Okay, it's okay. You can add.
Are you going to mobilize the vaccine?
Yes, by the times.
How are you going to close it?
Oh, thank you very much. The bridge is there. Oh, thank you so much. We are prepared, of course, to engage every Zimbabwean, because this is not an MDC issue alone. It is not a Douglas Mwonzora issue alone. It is not even a Mnangagwa issue alone. It is an issue for all Zimbabweans. Because the Constitution governs all of us, it is important not to discriminate when it comes to engagement. We are prepared to engage ZANU-PF on this issue. Why are we prepared to engage ZANU-PF on this issue? Because we were together with ZANU-PF when we drafted this clause. We were together with ZANU-PF when we agreed on it. We were together with ZANU-PF when we received the instructions from the people of Zimbabwe to make sure that there are term limits. We were together with ZANU-PF when we went to the referendum and heard in no uncertain terms the views of the people of Zimbabwe. So we want to engage them, to ask them, comrades, what has gone wrong? What's different now? We agreed on this. And just to advise you, I think on the last day of the negotiations in the Constitution, I was seated directly opposite to the Minister of Defense then, who is the president now. And I was reading clause by clause to him. And he was indicating whether they were in agreement or not. And when we came to this one, we agreed. And it is important that we know from ZANU-PF what has motivated this to risk the country being labeled a pariah state. What is the benefit of that? We are interested in knowing that. Unfortunately, no one has engaged us, but we are very willing to talk to them. We are willing to dialogue. We always say that dialogue is important. It was through dialogue that the War of Liberation was ended at Lancaster House. It was through dialogue that the bloodletting in Matabeleland and the Midlands was stopped during in 1987. It was through dialogue that the bloodletting of 2008 was stopped. So why should we not resort to that? So we are prepared to talk to them. We are prepared to engage to some of the people within the opposition who are ambivalent about this issue. When I read some of the tweets, I see that there is ambiguity everywhere. We need to be very clear about this issue. So we are willing to engage. Are we going to file a court application? I don't know. I don't know whether the leadership of the MDC are going to say we should file a court application at all. And if so, what is the timing? Timing is very, very important when it comes to court cases of this nature, because there may be a risk for those who want to engage in litigation of doing it too early. For example, one can argue that you are challenging a bill. Who told you that it won't be changed when it goes to Parliament, you know, and so on. So there is need for a certain stage to be reached before one can challenge in court. But whether the MDC will want to litigate on this issue is something I do not know. Whether they are going to mobilize the people of Zimbabwe is something that I can suspect that the MDC would want to do. They would want to mobilize the people of Zimbabwe to engage in conversation to the people of Zimbabwe, to tell and show the people of Zimbabwe the danger that we are sliding in. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, I think it was Minister Ziyambi, and the bill says that it is being necessitated by need to complete development projects. And they want 7 years to complete development projects. It doesn't make sense. The projects that they are doing did not start on the same day. So project yekumarwanyati kana kuti project yemaroads inopera gore ripi 7 years here ko yatangwa gore rino and so on. So this project didn't start on the same day. And if we allow that as a reason, the next regime is going to require 10 years to finish its project. And the regime of President Tamba may want 20 years. And the regime of President Chinake may want a lifetime. And the regime of Comrade Wongoro may want generations and generations and generations of the same family. So when we start this, we are getting the country on a slippery slope. Ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe is going down the precipice. We must catch it before it hits the bottom and it disintegrates. This is a serious matter. We are going to mobilize the people, of course. Regarding litigation, we are going to see. We know there are a number of people who are contemplating litigation. I think there are 2 cases already. A gentleman called Fuzwayo, I think, and another one called More Precision Muzadzi. I think they are before the courts. Whether the MDC will want to be part of the court litigation remains to be seen. But definitely mobilizing the masses, we will. Definitely engaging in all of the with all political forces, we shall. Engaging in ZANU-PF, if it allows us to, we will.
Thank you. Any further questions? You want a supplementary question again?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
I promise it's my last one.
No, it's okay. You can even go on.
As the president of the MDC, which is probably the second biggest party right now in Zimbabwe, have you done maybe a study to see how the mood of the nation is, of the citizens is regarding this issue, since it was announced about two days ago? Are you in sync with the citizens? Do you think the citizens also want the same thing that you want? Or maybe this is just a top versus bottom kind of issue?
This issue did not start 2 days ago. It started a long time. I think it started immediately after the 2023 elections. And I think by December 2023, it was already in full swing. So the citizens have been seized with this matter. As regards the formalization of the matter, that's the one which started 2 days ago. But I can tell you that the majority of Zimbabweans do not like this amendment. And this includes some Zimbabweans who are in ZANU-PF. They are against it. And I do know for certain that the church, they are against it, and they've said it. The war veterans, they are against it, and they have said it. We have, of course, a few that want it. And the people who have been very, very active about wanting it are people who are directly economically benefiting. And they have access to economic privilege, they have access to economic opportunities, and they would naturally want the status quo to proceed. But let's spare a minute for the average Zimbabwean. The average Zimbabwean is wallowing in poverty and misery. The answer to the socio-political and economic conundrum of the Zimbabwean people is not the change in the constitution. If you go to Mbare and ask an average middle-aged woman in Mbare what they would want this government to do, I bet you the answer is not change the constitution. The answer is something else. Job for my children. Factories must be opened. We must have more freedom. We must have access to money and so on, and to economic opportunities. That is what we must address. So the people of Zimbabwe agree with us. If anybody thinks that the people of Zimbabwe don't agree with us, then let's go to the referendum, and the people of Zimbabwe will tell us what they want. So what we are asking as Zimbabwe, as the MDC, is that people of Zimbabwe must not surrender their sovereignty to parliament. At any rate, what the system that Minister Ziyambi has just put in that bill, the unintended meaning of that system is that you have a strong parliament, strong in the sense that it has been directly elected parliament, and a very weak executive. Now, what they've now done is that they've taken the powers designed for a person with a direct mandate, right? The power that we gave to the president in the constitution is the power reserved for a person directly elected by the people. They have retained the power, which is the privilege that the people have given to the president. They have taken away the right of the people to put that president. So they have had their cake and eaten it too. Now, what this system then calls for, if it is to be followed according to the constitutional law, it means that they should go ahead and weaken the president. They have to whittle down his powers to accord with his manner of selection. That is what must happen. That is the meaning of what has been done. They are trying to copy South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, where the president is elected by parliament. But in South Africa, the MPs themselves are elected by proportional representation. They are indirectly elected. And they also indirectly elect the president. That is different from what they're trying to do here. You have directly elected MPs who are going to be presided over by an indirectly elected president. It does not work.
Thank you so much. Yes, another supplementary question, Yvonne.
Yes, in the event that this falls through, what legal remedies do people have to deal with this?
Well, quite a number of them. I'm happy that they have not amended Section 59 of the Constitution. In terms of Section 59 of the Constitution, it is the right of the people of Zimbabwe to demonstrate and present petition peaceably. So that peaceful option is a legal option. There is the option to litigate. There is an option to pass a vote of no confidence in the government. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the people who have crafted this bill did not think about the power that they've just given Parliament. If you have the power to put, you have the power to remove. So the parliament, the vote of no confidence can be passed by parliament, and the president can be gone in no time. But what is important is that this bill ought to go for referendum.
Yes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've come to the end of our press conference.